Swamijit, hi, good to have you with us. How have you been?
Very good, Ashu. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on your channel.
Swamijit, I've been looking forward to this conversation, right? And I think, while of course there's this excitement that I have, right, around this conversation, because all the good work that you're doing, right, and this is a very, very important segment, right? I mean, while of course, I think, when you hear people in the country, right, and when we talk about demographic dividend, we're essentially talking about the youngsters that we have, right? What we forget in the process is this is a population which is going to age, right? And then there are many, many social complexities that we're now kind of, as a society, we're plagued with, right? It's just that we're in denial, right? We're not realizing a lot of these issues and the seriousness around these issues, right? And thus, it becomes very important and relevant to put that foundation of elderly care right now. And I think something that you are kind of championing, right, with Imoha Elder Care. Thus, it becomes a very interesting conversation, right, to have and to understand various complexities around it, right? And like I said, right, I'm looking forward to this conversation, excited to an extent, but more
Same.
importantly, want to understand the intricacies and the softness and the sensitivity which is required to build a sustainable ecosystem around elderly care, right? Thus, this conversation is important in that context. But before we do that, right, I would love you to run us through, your background. A quick round of introduction would be helpful, and from there we dive into our discussion for the day.
Thank you, Ashu. So I'm Samajit. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Imoha Elder Care. We are on a mission to, make elders' life much more interesting, safe, secure, healthy, and full of energy, full of energized in their own home.
Right.
So for all the viewers out there, please look at how you can make your own parents more happy, more safe, and so on. So looking forward to this interaction. I am an urban planner, architect, School of Planning and Architecture, 22 years back now.
Right.
But have had the pleasure of working in the technology field for about 7 years. Geospatial technology, used to travel across UK, US, and so on. But switched into, after my management at ISB, I came
Right.
into JLL and was doing alternate assets, looking
Right.
after education, healthcare, and senior care.
Mhm.
And that's where got to interact with elders across the country, from
Right.
Coimbatore to Jalandhar to
Right.
Guwahati, Gandhinagar. And one common string was there across, that elders in this country don't have something that they can depend for.
Right.
And it doesn't mean elders meaning people who are in the last stages of their life, or people who need things. You see the amount of talent that is there.
Right.
Each of us have parents who are talented, right?
Right.
What are they doing? What are they doing? You will find
Right.
that there is so much talent out there, the
Right.
moms, aunties, uncles, and you see them having so much difficulties if there's an emergency, if there is healthcare
Right.
support systems. COVID is just the opening of the can.
Right.
It was not COVID alone. This situation has been like this for 15, 20 years, if not
Right.
more. My grandfather faced the same challenges when he was alive. So
Right.
having seen this across the country and professionally working in elder care for 12 years, I started the part of the team which started Association of Senior Living India, which is kind of
Right.
the NASCOM of the elder care industry,
Right.
and also the CII task force. It was quite evident, and I had a beautiful stint working with Max India team, with
Right.
Tara, Ananjit's daughter, building Antara Senior Living with her. That the future is really bringing elder care into elders' homes.
Right.
And doesn't mean elders who are sick.
Right.
Only 5 to 7% elders are sick. 95% are fine.
Right.
They're good, but they also need help. They need support.
Absolutely.
And more than help and support, they need a voice. They need a place. They need a community where they can become more active, more engaged. And we owe it to our parents to have
Right.
them have a better quality of life. And that's what Imoha is. It's a community which is connected, which is where they have a lot of fun. And at the same time, they can depend on, on Imoha for the little hassles in life that sometimes troubles an elder.
Very interesting.
So,
Very interesting. Now, I think there's I, a good business requires a personal motivation. That's how I look at it, right? And I think every founder that you sort of speak with, right, who's experienced that problem at a first level, right, as first hand, typically it just gives them a very different kind of a motivation, right? I think more than the commercial aspects around a certain business, right, it just becomes a mission, right? And I think that's what I sense in what you're sort of what you're saying, right? And I think I completely concur with what you said, right? That we owe it to our parents, right? And for all the good work and the effort that they've sort of put into give us the right kind of education foundation, right?
absolutely.
I think it is just so much more important, right? And also the fact that when you bring them into a community, it just brings out a very different positivity in them, right? Which is not
Correct.
usually the case because they otherwise get disconnected in the process. Sorry.
I'll give you a story of my own mom,
Yeah.
Ashu. So my mom has been a school principal. I come from a family of educationists. My grandparents were massive, professors in Calcutta, and mom was a school principal. Even now, the school in Ranchi is called Mrs. Roy's School. It's a DAV school, has 6,000 students.
Right.
But mom has been an educator all her life. Today, she has some amount of challenges, dementia and others. She keeps forgetting, but remembers everything, past.
Right.
And it's been there for about 10, 12 years now. And
right.
it doesn't change her spirit. She's still the spirited individual that I have huge respect for. She's a hero
right.
of my life. My dad has been a manufacturing industry person. Teachers still date. Both of them take care of underprivileged children in the neighborhood. And that's what retirement is. It's re-attirement.
Right.
It's not retirement. So how do you re-attire yourself? I've seen my parents do it well. I've seen them going through lots of struggles.
Mm-hmm.
But in the small little experiments that I've been doing with my own parents in their own home, coming from a design architecture background, I've done more than 120, 130 things in their home so that their home can become more elder friendly.
Right.
So why not have, it's not just me, my founding team are exceptional, founding team members of Emoha who studied abroad, who worked abroad in senior care, in different aspects from clinical, psychological. So how do you blend all of these things together as sons and daughters, what we've cracked for our parents? We've brought all of this together in the membership so that others can benefit from it. Because as I said, it's not just my mom and dad story. I believe that till the day that my parents are there, I think, I would love to see them, happy, smiling and independent.
Hail, hearty, happy, smiling.
We have this false notion that we are givers. We're not givers. They are the givers. We are the receivers, right? So sometimes in the healthcare industry, we tend to look at elders only as receivers. But elders are more givers than receivers. Think of parents. How many times do parents give and how many times do they receive? It's usually giving, right? So we have to find ways so that elders can contribute, they can stay more relevant. And that's what I see at my parents' case. I see that happening across the community as well.
Very interesting. Swamiji, I'd love to understand a little more about the construct of Emoha Eldercare, right? Is this a living or a real estate driven model that you have in place? Is this a very different kind of at-home care model that you have? Give me a breakdown of what Emoha Eldercare stands for, right? Give me a construct of this, right? Also, what I would love to understand is the community side of it, right? In the sense that, because, irrespective of whatever model that you have, right? Irrespective of delivery model that you have, right? It becomes very critical to have a very strong community engagement model, right? To keep them occupied. Tell me a little more about that.
That's right. So Emoha is a membership. We are not a real estate play. And having worked in large assets, I know exactly what it takes to, stream in services into an elder's home. So we created Emoha in a model where wherever you stay in 80 cities and towns in the country, Emoha will be able to, drive home support systems in case there's an emergency, getting you the best of doctors in the neighborhood as well as online support, getting you access to a host of, healthcare logistics, I call it, whether it's medicine, diagnostics, all the kinds of challenges that you saw through COVID. Emoha's community members, had far lesser difficulties compared to the, country by large. And we had scaled up a lot of our logistics supports for healthcare during COVID time as well, continue to do that today. The third is, lot of convenience related activities, whether it's small things like, getting your tech support at home, whether it is, an insurance support, whether it is going to the hospital, coming back, travel. Even some of our elders are now starting to do international travel, helping them with them through more than 450 partners, local and national. And the fourth is engagement and activities and events, experiences and so on. So these four pillars pretty much define what Emoha does. It's all included in the 1,000 rupee membership that we call Empower. And it's all about empowering an elder to stay at home as long as they want. And therefore, it's a partnership with their children. The children could be staying abroad, could be staying in the same home. 30% of our children stay in their own home as joint family, 25% stay abroad. So it's not like only lonely elders, only sick elders, come to Emoha. The common connect between the joint family sons and daughters and the sons and daughters in Boston is that both of them love their parents. They love the fact that Emoha changes their parents' life. They understand that they can't, keep a track of all health aspects. They understand that their parents would love to have other friends across the country, and they can become the president of the Dramatics Club or the Buddhism club and,
Right.
and prepare it for how one has a living university kind of a feel. And they understand that this is the right thing for their parents. So what is 1,000 rupees? And then beyond the membership, if they need doctors, if they need carers,
Right.
suppose, like I was in Pune yesterday, right? So if something would have happened to my parents, there's a
Right.
team which is there in the hyperlocal community,
Right.
backed by a virtual daughter. Again, a very interesting Emoha term.
Right.
So we have this concept that the virtual daughter is exactly what it means. This is
Right.
a daughter who connects with the family on a daily basis. 5 days a week, she connects with the elder, calls the elder every day.
Right.
And gets to know the elder very well, their health, social, emotional, family, all of that. And therefore becomes the bridge between the needs of the home and what Emoha can do through partners and through itself.
Right.
So if somebody needs, a travel support, somebody needs a medicine support, healthcare support, appointment, or generally somebody is stressed. The other day somebody was calling that I want to make a will. I don't know how to get a will done.
Right.
Today morning somebody was calling, and explaining about they needed to travel somewhere. They couldn't figure out how.
Right.
Small things for an elder can become quite, challenging.
Right.
For you and me, we may be able to, quickly go to Google and sort it out, right?
Right.
But sometimes when, a page is not opening, or some notification has come on your SMS, it can become a source of challenge. So the virtual daughter becomes the SPOC, the Spock for everything that the elder wants. And all of this stays in the membership. So we've kept it simple, become an Emoha member, enjoy everything that comes with it. And we are there across 80 cities and towns. So, wherever you are, parents are, as long as they are an Emoha member, they'll get taken care of and services delivered in your own home.
Very interesting. So, typically, when I think of elder care, right, and I've been, and I think when you look at, I think elderly, members of your own family, right, I think there is a certain, at that point, right, in life, there's a certain emotional sensitivity that gets built, right, and for that could be a function of a variety of, reasons and factors, right, around them. When you actually when you institutionalize a service, when you package that service, and when you offer it to them, right, it requires a very different kind of, say, a motivation. It requires a very different kind of a sensitivity. It requires a very different kind of an emotional quotient, right, in terms of dealing that, right. What I've understood, and I've had a chance to sort of speak with many people in the healthcare industry, right, and some people, where we very tangentially spoken of elderly care, right. I think one big problem essentially that has been there has been this particular problem, right? How do you maintain consistency of delivery, right? Tell me a little more about that, right? How have you been able to sort that out, right? Because your motivation as a founder could be, anybody below you, right? That layer below you it's an employment for them, right? It's very difficult to usually pass on that motivation to many others. When that motivation, it could be momentary, it might not carry for a very long time, right? How do you maintain that consistency of, say, for example, giving in this case, right? Being vigilant, right? Being observant, being sensitive to the cause, right? How does that, being able to anticipate, for example, is a huge play, right? In this entire thing, right? In the entire delivery aspect. How does that happen, right? How do you ensure that the teams are aligned to the vision of the company, of the promoters, and more importantly, of the consumer, what they require?
Sure, it's a very important point. I think culture is the bedrock of everything that we do, and it's easy said, but I think the last 2 COVID surges have actually proven to me more than anybody else that at the last mile of the organization, people have really stood by elders. We are close to 170 people now, have more than about 1,000 carers, and several 450 partners. So we are not a small startup right now. We over the last 2.5 years. Loomis Partners and me, when we co-founded the company, Rohit Bhayana, who's my co-founder, who's the managing principal at Loomis Partners. We were very clear. We wanted to create a company which is designed to scale up globally, designed with the right quality systems, right? What we call as QTPC, the quality, technology, processes, compliances of the company are stitched in the technology layer itself. But most importantly, I think it also comes from the founding team. It's, as I said, it's not me, whether it's myself or it is my chief product officer, Sama, who was in the US and came back to India to take care of her parents, or Neha, who's a CEO and co-founder of Epoch Elder Care, which is part of the continuum. She's been a clinical psychologist, or Captain Harsh, Dr. Manreet, who've been in the Indian Navy, and post 26 years in the Navy, they started spending a lot of time in elder care. So we are very ground people. We know what it takes to work on the ground, and our teams can see that we kind of lead from the front. We are on the ground, taking care of things all the time.
Right.
But most importantly, I think early on we had decided that, of 170 people, 90 people have ESOPs in the company. We believe that everything in the company is co-owned by employees.
Right.
The responsibilities and accountabilities are very clearly defined, and there are very clear allocations that we do right from the beginning.
Right.
And the relationship is very social. So, when you adopt, like I said, virtual daughter,
Right.
when the virtual daughter has adopted the uncle and the auntie, and you're talking every day, if
Right.
I were to talk to you every day, Ashu, our relationship will become far more than what it is by one
Absolutely.
call, right?
Right.
And that becomes personal. And when it becomes personal, you can't afford to see your uncle or your auntie suffering because somebody is delayed on a service or because a
Right.
carer has not appeared on time. You will fight it out, right? So you truly become a family member. You know that your sons and daughters abroad or in some other city are actually depending on you completely.
Right.
And in some cases, travel bans exist, so the people cannot actually come down.
Right.
So the sense of responsibility is very high. That that it has to be done. But it also starts from how we hire people, how we train people, how we induct people.
Right.
Learning and development is a large part of what we do. Elder care is not a conventional subject. Because all founding team members have spent 10-15 years in the space.
Right.
We know exactly the kind of modules that are required to bring it up. But it starts with being a good human being.
Right.
It starts with having high empathy.
Right.
It starts with also being professional, being very good at what you do.
Right.
And then having the delegation that at 2 a.m. in the night, emergency teams are empowered to do the right thing.
Right.
If they feel that this is required and the doctor on the duty is doing the right thing, they are empowered to take calls that
Right.
that they can take care of the elder when there is a requirement.
Right.
So it's a very young, young at heart. The team is empowered. They know every person in the Emoha team, the Epoch team, know that they are changing the world and how we are looking
Right.
at elder care. We grew from 50, 60 pre-COVID to now about 3,500, 4,000 elders. So we've
Right.
seen the kind of impact that has happened. And the most important thing, which is a deep kept secret, which I keep telling people when they hire, is that we get blessings.
Right.
It's the biggest currency in the world, Ashu. I can't even tell you that when our young people who join the company from hospitality or healthcare,
right.
And the kind of blessings they get from elders when they are able to save their life or take care of things, it changes their personality.
Right.
It completely changes their personality. COVID time, many of our team members, I have seen their personalities change. From a transactional approach in healthcare, sometimes it becomes a longitudinal approach towards a person.
Right.
That it becomes that कुछ भी हो जाओ, RT-PCR check यहाँ नहीं हो रहा है तो मैं कहीं से तो करा के छोड़ूंगा. I'll make it happen. I'll
Right.
make sure that uncle gets what he wants. I'll make sure
Right.
auntie gets what she wants.
Right.
It comes from very deep cultural drive established in the company.
Swamiji, that's a difficult culture to build and sustain, right? Because at some point of time, you will have a youngster typically doing this for you, right? And when I say youngster, it could possibly not be a 22-year-old, but a 26, 27-year-old, right? The aspirations are very, very different than life, right? I mean, in my mind, I find it extremely challenging to believe, how this is extremely exhausting, right? Your commitment to somebody's wellness is extremely high. That person does not possibly have any other vent but that, say, a number or that person, right, to speak with. It could just be very, very challenging in that sense, right?
There is, but it's codified, Ashu.
Is this a high churn place for you from an employee
No.
standpoint? What happens, right?
No, on the contrary, churn is very low. Yeah, attachment is very high. People
Right.
get very, very attached. So, so what sounds as culture is a lot of science, technology, elder care domain, and process systems behind it. Just I'll give you one example.
Sure.
When you do celebrations together with elders, your bond grows
Right.
warmer. When
Right.
you go and visit elders in their homes, and they give you a return gift in which you were not anticipating,
Right.
or you give a gift to them which auntie was not expecting because it was auntie's, she recovered well from an illness and she suddenly
Right.
got a bunch of flowers.
Right.
It is what we call as Mo, which is the center of Emoha.
Right.
So some of these are built into our deep processes and systems, but we've seen that these things work. So even if a person has joined recently, in a month or two, we start to see the Emoha blood flowing in their veins. Because we know that it will work. And there are
Right.
ratios, so we don't cross the ratio. So there are a certain number of elders per carer. There are certain of virtual daughters to elders, supervisors. We don't cross those ratios because we know that it's sustainable to grow at those ratios.
Interesting.
And we've seen it works over time. So, but yes, we will always be we'll always be a very elder centric, person centric company. Even if when we are a million elders, I don't think that culture will change.
Right.
So I have a Sukh Dukh report on my table every day.
Interesting.
So it's called an SDC report. An SDC report is all happy elders whose birthdays and anniversaries, and all unhappy elders who have had falls or who had any emergencies across the country. So my head of operations, myself, we kind of get involved in anything that they need. Small things like this. It builds the bond with our team members as well as, and this is done with our team members as well. So if any of our team members are not feeling well and so on, the same spirit of taking care of our teams equally exist.
Very interesting. Now, I'm going to move to COVID, right? Something that we've kind of alluded to in a couple of points that you've made, a couple of points that I've made, right? I think COVID has been an extremely difficult situation, right? And that kind of just opened up us to a very difficult environment, right? Especially for elders, right? Who had, especially the ones where the kids were in a different city, right? In India, outside, right? It just became so much more complicated for them, right? They didn't, like you said, right? They did not necessarily know where to get the help, right? They were a little. I mean, it was just a very difficult phase, right? They didn't necessarily knew what to do, what not to do, and there was like a very large segment, right, of these people, right? Booking, for example, just your vaccination was just so much more difficult, right? Being there, being open to, contraction infection, there was a huge fear, right? There was this extremely crazy phase, right? How has that changed you as an organization? I mean, I have many questions which are around COVID, right? But let me just start with this one, right? How has that changed you as an organization? That sensitivity, right? That must just put a lot of pressure on the expectations from you as a platform, right? What's been the phase like?
So I think we started a year before COVID. The company's name Emoha, if you turn around, it's a home. So when the word started spreading of stay at home and work from home and everything, we were just reflecting on the fact that because our design outcome right at 2018 end, when Rohit Bhayana from Loomis and myself, we started thinking through the whole thing. We were very clear that everything has to work at home. So it is designed for let's say an 85-year-old auntie who stays alone in Bombay with a daughter staying in New Jersey. Just imagine that as a consideration. So therefore, how is it possible that she can stay at home without stepping out and have technology? Like, can you see this? This is a little bit of a little button thing. So we have many of these little devices which can go into the elder's home. We have our own app where you can press on the button, or you can just call us on the center. And this is reactive. They are calling. Then it's proactive calling from our side. So it's this combination of different technologies, different systems. Some which are not scaring the elder, some which is app oriented. Some elders are comfortable, some are just comfortable calling the person. Somewhere we are calling. It's this combination of different things which cracked the engine. So by the time COVID came, the only big change that happened was that the More TV, which is Ministry of Happiness Television, which is our online series, we are currently the country's, if not probably the world's largest elder content event player, the largest. So more than 1,400.
I think that's one facet of you that I didn't know of.
So we have more than 1,400 events done in the last COVID period. I'll have to check whether we've broken some records, but that is definitely something that we feel very proud about. And this is connecting elders from across the world, across the country. At some point of time, I'd love to see a Spanish elder and a German, elder and a who knows, a Bengali elder in Kolkata having a great time online. Not being lonely anywhere in the world. So what happened in COVID was that the organized physical community events became online. So suddenly what we were doing in NCR spurred the need for us to become virtual from an engagement standpoint, because we couldn't be in the elder's home. So health became obviously online, engagement became online, a lot of activities became online, but at the same time, we can't leave the physical side. So the hyperlocal got stitched. So hyperlocal moved from becoming these physical hubs, small hubs where our responder teams used to stay, to across the country partnered responses where whether it's emergency, whether it is ambulance, whether it is doctors, literally every elder has 11 parameters which are stitched around the particular elder's home. So that any point of time they need any help and support, whether it's emergency, whether it's somebody just to help them with errands, there's somebody to reach the elder's home. So the balance of virtual and physical got perfected during the last COVID time and got tested in the second surge. Second surge was literally, testing by fire.
Right.
And 45 lives got saved. We've saved about 180 lives by now.
Interesting.
45 was just during the second surge. It was a massive period where we even partnered with a hotel to create a 70-bed, kind of a major COVID center in Gurgaon.
Right.
But it tested the mettle of the company and proved to our community members that this is the best decision that their sons and daughters have done. 70% of our elders are absolutely hale and hearty, by the way.
Right.
And about 62% are 55 to 65 years. So this biased perception, oh, my parents are not that old, they don't need elder care. Oh, my parents are not sick, they don't need elder care. This is something that as sons and daughters we have to upgrade ourselves and think of how we can't keep our parents exposed, we can't keep them vulnerable. And a membership of IMOHA can kind of really make them feel much more safe and secure and active, engaged, so that as they move from 60s to 70s and 80s, they always have friends and they have a system they can depend on and stay independent.
Right.
So very big changes. COVID. I keep joking. COVID has been our chief innovation officer. But yes, it's helped us. It's helped us test our systems. It helps us feel more comfortable that we are in the right path.
Right.
And proven the engine.
That's interesting, right? And that's one side of the story, right? Second wave was extremely unfortunate, right? And it just was very, very scary, right? Because what was possibly playing out in the media, right, just created a havoc, right? I think everybody is just talking up in a very different way, right? I think it to an extent it seemed that as if the world is going to come to an end, right? And this is and I think for the elderly it was just a little more scary, right? For healthy, I mean, we were losing people right at the center, right? So how was that side of it, right? I mean, was there a panic situation that a lot of elderly had hit? What was the scene there? I mean, you've given me your version of how your team, for example, was say stationed to tackle the complexities that you could have anticipated, right? But what was happening in the minds of these elderly, especially the ones who were staying alone, right? How were they reacting to the situation? Were the number of calls, for example, increased? They needed to be assuaged at a different level. What was happening? What was that communication conversations like at that time?
So around the first week of April to second week of April, our helpline numbers went through the roof. And we used to get 30, 40, 50 calls a day.
Sure.
I think we were touching 150 to 200, 250 calls a day. And from across the dad's phone is not answering. I have no way to reach out to them. He stays in XYZ location. I don't know what to do. And this is a daughter in Boston crying on the phone saying, Samajit, do something. I don't know what you can do, but do something. There is curfew in the city. I can't even send somebody.
Right.
And I was depending on the neighbor is not picking up the call.
Right.
So we've all done this suboptimal, the Indian jugaad system of taking care of
things.
Right. Nothing wrong with it, but sometimes you can't do jugaad with your parents, right? So it's important that you think through better ways in which how you can make things work.
Right.
So elders during this time really went into panic. I'll be very honest. But the way the situation got addressed was daily communication. So the platform that we have, MoTV platform, came very, very useful because we were doing doctor sessions every day. I was on the session every day. We were calming some of the, because it's also emotional wellness. It's not just the fear was doing a lot of damage.
Right.
And for me, the elders knew very clearly in the IMOHA community that every day matters. So the moment one of the 8 symptoms happens, they know who to reach out to. They know what is the next step. They are seeing others in the community who got COVID. They've seen them recovering. They saw them, getting through the COVID, treatment process that we had established with the, doctors in the network. And they saw that the fear was going away.
Right.
So even while we were going from, early April to mid-April to end April, when it was kind of peaking out, the fear that COVID will happen and suddenly everything will go out of the hand and they'll not get oxygen and bed and all that. I think the fear started to recede. And when we opened up the COVID center ourselves, I think that was the last little thing that, that IMOHA is there for them. But at the same time, I would be, very honest that a lot of people who kind of did not do the right homework
Right.
Took very late decisions, and those late decisions costed, some of them costed them with their parents' lives, because by the time it was the fifth day, sixth day,
Right.
Elders and healthcare have complexities. 40% have comorbidities.
Right.
The treatment for diabetic COVID versus having COPD and COVID is very different.
Absolutely.
So one can't ignore, one can't take chances. When
Right.
you were small, your parents did not take chances with you. कहते
Right.
ना एक छींक भी लग जाती है तो डॉक्टर के पास जाते थे. A
Interesting.
small
Yeah.
little sneeze would take you to a doctor, right?
Right.
But something, as your parents grow older, they will try to say, I am fine.
Right.
मेरे को कुछ नहीं हुआ है, बेटा मैं ठीक हूँ. They will
Right.
say that. But as a son, as a daughter, one has to be a little bit more pragmatic and say that let a professional team keep checking on them, because
Right.
You may not be able to catch them, but they will be able to catch them, and that can help them save their lives.
Right.
And tomorrow, if something happens, don't worry, because things can go wrong, right? With an elder, 20-25% of elders have a fall.
Right.
They can, break their head. Something can happen. A hip can get mislocated. So, or loneliness can kick in, depression can kick in.
Absolutely.
If
massive.
It's massive. Depression and loneliness is the world's biggest pandemic, much bigger
Right.
than COVID.
Right.
And in some ways, the engagement activities is completely breaking the back of loneliness
Right.
For our elders. So some of these things, I think it's important that once the elders saw during the COVID period that they are in safe hands, they
Right.
felt relaxed. And that's what we really wanted, that don't get stressed, don't panic. There's
Right.
no point in panicking. Know that there is professional help and support, and know that it's extended family. So you don't have to, the doctor is a phone call away.
Right.
The virtual daughter is calling you every day. And just this fact that we are there, within the Imoha system, we say Imoha hai na. So
Right.
we are just there. So it gives them feeling of confidence that, nothing will happen, and they'll joke and laugh about it during our More TV sessions. And even somebody gets a COVID, they'll pull their leg, so they'll make them
Right.
feel a little bit better.
Interesting. So, Abhijit, it's heartening to hear what you're saying, right? I mean, if all of us have elderly parents, right? And I kind of, while you are saying what you are, right, in my mind, I'm just thinking about many of those conversations that I've had, for example, with my parents, right? And it's heartening to see, like I said, right, with the sensitivity that you're building this entire, piece, right? It's just so much more required. I'm going to move into a slightly, different point, right?
Right.
Now, when we talk of the urban audience, when we talk about the younger consumers, right, we are essentially talking about, certain aspects that are now going to be set in stone, right, from a consumption standpoint, right? Elderly are a little rigid, right? They're essentially, there are certain systems that they follow. They don't necessarily get out of the system very quickly, right? They continue to sort of follow the path. What are some of those changes that you've experienced that have happened, right? What are, for example, some of the services that have now, for example, have a higher engagement that, possibly wasn't the case before COVID, right? But you think now is going to become, say, part of the regular conversations that that happens with, the digital dot, for example, right? What are some of those services that are now picking up, right? How's the mindset shift happen post this phase that we've seen?
Can I ask you a question, Ashu?
Yes, please.
What is your age?
My age is 38.
38. So 40 years back, an elder whose age is 80 right now,
right,
was at a time when the world realized how it feels to discover a television,
right,
what it is a computer, how to go to the moon and do fancy things in a rock and roll generation, right?
Right.
It's a myth that the elder is not, is averse to new things. In fact, on the contrary, the elderly population today, those who are in their 70s and 80s,
sure,
are path breakers. These
right,
are the same guys who in their 60s and 70s were part of the Kennedy, generation. They were part of the generation which brought computers to India and so on and
right,
so forth, right? Look at Narayan Murthy, the visionaries of this country, the technology
sure,
visionaries of this company. They are really the people who transformed the company, right?
Right.
Country by large. So I see that across the elder base. I see our
right,
elders adopting technology.
Right.
They are the largest growing digital content creators,
right,
the digital content consumers. They are the largest growing silver economy, in terms of, I have a lot of friends in the e-commerce space.
Right.
I keep talking about how many of them are now becoming the largest segment of, buyers,
Right.
growing buyers in e-commerce, whether it is,
Right.
online retail, whether it is, pharmacy, whether it is, you name it. They have time, they have, they have money. There's a statistics floating around of 80% of the country's assets are owned by elders.
Right.
So this is a new genre of consumers who are confident, who have suddenly become very comfortable with Zoom, with WhatsApp, with e-commerce. They feel very comfortable doing digital payments. They've seen what it feels to have the potato being delivered at home, and not liking it, and they can send it back. So they feel confident that between all the various moving parts of e-commerce, they've adequately trained the new Indian elder across all our cities in the country to go to the next level. So does this sensor scare them? No, it does not. Does an app scare them? No, it does not. I have elderly, aunties staying alone in their late 70s and 80s, who come, and once in a while they ask this question, "Kaise karte ho beta? How do you do this?" So our virtual daughters would train them how to do this, and then they'll come back someday and ask a very interesting question. So our app, for example, is not designed by us. So Sama, who's our chief product officer, has a whole team of elders who design the app for her.
Very interesting.
They design the app. We don't design the app. They design how the buttons should look, how should it feel, what should happen when you click the button, what is extra information, what is not extra information, so that they have a sense which is far more better. What is relevant, what is not relevant into the product. In any case, a product should be involving the. In general, the e-commerce industry, the product consumer industry has ignored the elderly segment. So, you put your mind and lens only for the millennial, 350 million population. But the fact is that this 120 million population, of which 40 million is in urban areas, and close to about 10, 15, 20 million are major consumers. They are spending 40, 50,000 rupees every month, right? So a large part of this can, and is already going into the silver economy and the e-commerce space. So I see this as a changing segment. I see our elders becoming more and more confident of using e-commerce, digital technologies, the Emoha app, sensors, and benefiting from it. Why not?
So I agree to what you're saying, right? I understand where you're coming from, right? But when you talk of elderly, right? I mean, e-commerce is just one part of it, right? There are many facets. I think there's a certain sense of inhibition that comes in, right? And that largely comes in because they don't want to, for example, trouble the people around them, right? And I'm talking about a minus Emoha environment, right? It just becomes, there's this constant, and like I said, there's an inhibition, right? There is a certain, they defer it, right? They delay it, right? Right? I'm not saying it's constant destruction, right? But then there is this, there's this delay that they sort of bring in, right? Saying that, I don't need it, do I need it? And I think the question starts from there, right? And that's so. And the other thing that I want to sort of essentially also want you to sort of say, talk of, right, and shed a little light on, is the concept of Bharat, right? Now, what you're talking about, when I hear you, right, we're essentially talking about a lot of people who are in the urban setting, right? Now, your exposure, your confidence in an urban setting is very different, right? You've taken many calls, you've stared in a very different kind of, a market, right? As soon as you start talking about tier 2 and a tier 3, right, there is a difference. They've essentially been in that zone, right, of information arbitrage. And there is a certain lack of confidence. It requires them a lot of hand-holding to come to a point where they get to that comfort. And I'm not saying that this is a shift which is not happening, right? This is a shift which is happening, but it's just taking a little more time, right? For them to understand that this could exist. For their longest of, working years, spending years, thinking years, right? They've lived in an inefficient system, right? Which was that of retail, physical. For them to absorb that, there is something that can happen at home without them paying a price, there is a certain sense of skepticism, right? Which they approach it. And that's the mindset I'm kind of talking about.
It's there. It's there. Our elders, a lot of elders have come through Facebook, and you're right that the India and the Bharat difference is there, and this digital divide is there across all categories. Emoha is no neutral to that. We go through the same. From a Emoha standpoint, current priorities are to look at the urban, upper middle segment. People for whom 1,000 rupees per month is not a challenge at all. But our system design is not designed for the elitist higher end segment. The system design is such that tomorrow, as hyper local communities come up in different parts of the country,
Right.
Elders are very comfortable calling. So,
Absolutely.
you would recall your parents having numbers written down. I
Right.
can't remember any of our friends writing down phone numbers on a diary, right?
Right.
So,
it's a very interesting contrast, right? So I have a daughter who's 9 years old, and I have my parents, who are 65 plus, right? And there's a very interesting contrast, right? She would pick up a few things that they used to do and question, right? Why did this even exist, right? So, and I kind of completely agree with what you say.
So the fact that you and me may not be able to recall our friend's mobile number because it's there in the phone. So why do you need to have your brain to have that extra processing power? Whereas you ask your father, he would probably know at least 30-40 mobile numbers by heart.
Right.
So that genre and that generation is very comfortable calling.
Right.
And when I'm saying technology doesn't have to be complex for the elder. Right. As long as you're calling the person, you know who to call. Right. That person who you call has the full power of connections, networks, technology, a supply chain system, so that the elder can get what he wants. I don't want to make the frontware complex. The frontware can remain simple. So that's how the Bharat of the world and the India of the world can coexist. The India of the world can go to the app and do it themselves. Right. But the Bharat of the world can also, just call in because they know that this is the helpline number, call the helpline and your job gets done. And we have elders, by the way, we have elders who will not go into the app at all, which is fine with us. We don't want to push something, which is beyond, but all of them understand that you just have to press the button and somebody will call back. That's fine. That's not a problem. So we have to be flexible.
Absolutely.
We can't come with a straight jacket approach to everything.
No, I completely agree. I think India is a complicated market. I think you have to solve it in many ways, right? I think
absolutely.
But it's interesting to see, right? How our parents have become extremely comfortable with, for example, say video calling, right? I am surprised. I'm amazed, right? And I think there is a very different kind of confidence, right? And a happiness that they get, right? When they can actually see you, right? And they can see your expression in that conversation, right? It's just become extremely, extremely interesting. So I'm going to move a little towards the business side of the conversation, right? Now, this is a difficult market to acquire, right? And that is largely because the decision maker in this case, right, is possibly the case. And correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it's not. It's a mix of both. We have both.
Right? It's a mix of both. Communication becomes very, very important, right? What's been your, say, strategy in terms of doing it right? What's been your communication strategy? Which have been the channels which have actually performed the best for you from an acquisition standpoint, right? To create that awareness, create that sensitivity, engage them for them to be part of the funnel, and from there, become part of the family. What's been that communication process?
No, this has been an area of my personal focus, and growth and acquisition has been something that we've been fairly successful. One of the two channels that we've really focused from the beginning has been the referral and digital.
Right.
And within digital, both in terms of the the SEO organic traffic as well as paid performance marketing is something that we've given a lot of attention from the beginning.
Right.
Our YouTube channel as well as our website has close to between both of them 500,000 visits that happens a month. Wow. And this is just coming from the fact that last almost 2 years now we've been consistently creating from activities to blogs to events and streaming them across the world. So in some ways we really become the voice of elder content and elder activities in the country. People search for different types of programs, different types of videos and things like that. So on one side, therefore, digital has been really a focus. The company has gone into a lot of, we call 5 levels of Facebook performance marketing. I would say we are kind of somewhere between level 3 and level 4 now. There is a lot of thinking around how to go to level 5, which is the highest level of Facebook performance marketing. There is a lot of minor, very, very sharp nuances on how to, kind of optimize the Facebook engine. We have a team now that is extremely becoming very sharp at managing the the various kind of metrics, whether it is on the cost per clicks or whether it is in the terms of getting our CACs in order and so on. And everything matters. We have a staging where how fast you call, how you design your landing pages. Sometimes our videos get done 20 times because we don't like the way the caption is written. Right. And it is these small things which matter in the world of Facebook optimization and stuff like that. So whether it is Google, Facebook, whether it is the SEO organic side, we invest a lot of time and focus on that, because truly, the world is global. There are 19 million NRIs out there, and it's not just the NRIs. A lot of our, urban mobility, there are more than 350 million youngsters, and all of them are in all over the place.
Right.
North Indians in Bombay in,
Right.
in South India, and so on. So for us to communicate to them digitally, it is the biggest pride. At the same time, we have been, recently, a lot of corporates have been reaching out to us. So the B2B channel has suddenly become very, very active. We have more than 20 large corporates from,
Right.
HCL to very large companies who have made Emoha their partner for their employees across the world.
Right.
And these are, these are like in the thousands who are there abroad, who
Right.
Emoha acts as a help desk for their parents in India.
Right.
Many of them have, and not been able to come during COVID time. And we've been there, single point of support during the whole period.
Right.
So corporate has been an interesting and an outcome of the COVID period. And between these three, I think the one that I feel very proud about is referral.
Right.
So every elder has at least 10, friends and family. The core group of friends and family.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
So I feel very proud that this is something that has given us the maximum number of growth.
Right.
And that's kind of given a little bit of proof point to me as well as a founder that, we are in the right path, because if an elder feels comfortable, giving our numbers and concept to 3 of their closest members, because they've seen that we've saved lives and made their life more interesting. And a small secret, a lot of our single lady elders do more referrals than single gentlemen elders.
Interesting.
They have higher degree of trust. It's nothing to do with being a male or female, but a lot of our, a lot of our elders, 60% of our elders are single, 40% are couples, and very, very active on the community. They have become ambassadors of the company in different, and their children in New Jersey, in Los Angeles, and in Sydney, in Dubai, they become ambassadors of the company, propelling Emoha in New Jersey, in Washington, and so on. So it's becoming a large global community of what I called elders and those who love them. So all our extended family members across the world are as much Emoha, community members as their parents in India.
Phenomenal. Samajit, I would have, typically part of every conversation, right? And whenever you talk to business here, and when you are, for example, in a venture capital funded environment, right? I think one question becomes very pertinent and prominent, right? Is that of a moat in the business, right? Now here I don't want to actually talk of a moat, right? I want to talk of it from a slightly different angle, right? Now, this is a business that is not which has existed in many, many ways, right? So, for example, elderly homes is something that has existed for the longest time, right? It's not a new concept, right? And while of course they have existed, they've done extremely shabby delivery, right? It's been a bad run, right? There's been huge distrust around this entire sort of a thing, right? From that standpoint, right? My fear is in a market which is, say, kind of changing, it's transitioning, right? Especially when you're in a sensitive area like eldercare, right? What happens is a bad apple can, just change the perception of who you are in terms of what you're going to deliver, right? But I understand, you are at a different point, right? But it's still a difficult path, right? To sort of go out and, right? What happens in an environment like that, right? I mean, does the process becomes longer of, convincing these people? I mean, I understand what you highlighted is essentially an answer in many, many ways. Like, for example, referral people, the word of mouth, having a communication channel on YouTube where people can come in, see what you're doing and stuff like that, right? But what happens when there are many, many such bad apples that exist, right? Who continue to deliver a bad experience, right? What kind of a rub-off does that have on the industry at large, right? How does that dent the sentiment overall?
Ashu, again, a very, very pertinent question. I have been fortunate to be starting the Association of Senior Living India as we started this discussion. Recently, we are doing a lot of work on standards and quality standards across industry. And I had written the first bylaws for the senior living communities in the country in ASLI. So what I'm saying is that yes, it's true that as new members come in, there will be all kinds of products and services coming in. We've seen a lot of elder care startups across the country. It sometimes scares us but we've seen ourselves getting copied left, right, and center across the country. Again, that's very normal. Some of my team members sometimes say that we should take action against such companies. Nothing doing. Let them work. It's fine. It's
Right.
all, the whole industry will evolve, and it's fine for people to come in. They will realize, this is not an easy industry to be in. There will be bad apples, but at the same time, I think as long as you are representing the elder,
Right.
You'll be fine. What happens is that a lot of and nothing wrong, but sometimes what happens is that if you are, for example, if you are a nursing bureau, for example,
Right.
and there are perception issues in the industry where sometimes if you're a nursing bureau, or if it is a supplier of something, you tend to give the elder less importance compared to your own interests.
Right.
I think if you are an elder care company, you should be centric on the elders' needs.
Right.
And be able to focus on their needs alone. And as long as that is happening, and as long as various industries standards start to becoming more and more transparent, it will become better. We are about a year or so away from that as an industry. I am personally doing a lot of work with the government of India as well.
Right.
The current Secretary Subramaniam ji and the whole department is extremely proactive now on doing a lot of policy related activities on this space. And I do see, there have been 7 high-powered chair committees that have been created. We've just created a startup fund, 100 crore startup fund for elderly startups in the country.
Right.
So a lot of things are happening.
Right.
I see the next couple of years where the industry moves from being infancy, absolute infancy, to a little bit of adulthood. So yes, there will be new startups coming in, but consolidation is bound to happen. The right kind of people who have the right kind of founders and the long-term thinking in mind, they will sustain. People who will jump into the space because they think they'll make money, I think they'll get wiped out, because elderlies can see through it. Trust me, Ashu, more than anybody else, elders have a 60 years of experience of seeing through brochures and marketing materials. They have they have the world's largest experience in seeing through sales material. They can see through and recognize that this person is lying. So, so I think if you're a good human being, if you're a good company, if you're delivering, if your stories are true, then you should be in elder care. Otherwise, you should not. And this is exactly what we practice at Imoha as well. Every human being has to be with the right values. Otherwise, you can't survive in the elder care.
No, I understand where you're coming from. It's a marathon, right? It's a marathon. It is something required. It requires a lot of effort, and I think something that we've continuously alluded to, right? It requires that sensitivity, right? I mean, you can't really map your growth to that of a fund's life cycle, right? I think which many startups tend to sort of a trap that many startups tend to sort of.
No, I think it's also a belief, Ashu. I think there are I don't want to name any startups, but there are startups who have transformed their particular segments, whether it is transportation, whether it is food, whether it is home services.
Sure.
And you would know the kind of names. Even in those industries, a lot of these perceptions were there that things will not change. Fly-by-night operators will come in, bad apples, and so on. But staying to the gun, staying to the spirit, making sure that technology and processes and quality and control systems are put in, money is deployed in the right places, and it's all about execution. I think those things will change the game.
This is an industry which is at a very interesting intersection, at a complex intersection, right? That is of health, emotion, commitment, trust, right? And care, more importantly, right? So, and that's a very difficult sphere to sort of be in, right? I think the ones you're kind of mentioning, right, are very metric driven. You can really define them. I think this is something where you can define a process. You really can't define the outcome, right? It's not A, B, C, right? It could completely be out of the zone, right, of your anticipation. And I think that just makes it very, very complicated, right? In that sense, and that's the reason I said what I did, right? That it's not something where you can do it in line with the fund's life cycle, right? You have to do it in a very, very different way. It requires a very different kind of gumption, patience, and commitment.
And actually, I think it's about being in elder care first. Right. I think if you've not spent 15 years in elder care, if you've not truly worked with elders for decades, like I'm very fortunate to have founding team members who spent more than 12-15 years in that space. There are very, very finer nuances which helps in all aspects of the business, operations to business to finance. Even sending a reminder for a payment has a certain sensitivity.
Right.
You know,
I'm gonna say. Sorry, go ahead, please.
so those small nuances is
I
what
agree.
will differentiate an elder care tech-oriented company compared to a new entrant in the space. But I'm an optimist. I have hope. I think this
Right.
industry will see the trend that we are seeing in health tech and edu tech. I see age tech catching up. Age tech
Right.
is the biggest venture capital consumer in the United States and elsewhere in the world. And
Right.
why not? I think we are the cross spectrum of that in the country. We are in the early stage, and in some ways, what Imoha is doing is a little ahead of some of these things in abroad as well. So the same way as we are relevant to countries outside of India,
Right.
as age tech and venture capital in age tech grows, I think the whole ecosystem will benefit. I'm quite sure about that.
Thank you for correcting me, right? But I think you will have a large part of the credit for making it relevant from that standpoint, right? Moving into the last question, Swamijit, right? This has been a very interesting discussion. What are the next 2 years like? I would have loved to ask you a 5-year question, but I would restrict myself from asking a 2.5 year question, right? So, what are the next 20-24 months like, right? What are some of the things that we'll continue to see from your side? What's the expansion plan, right? Tell me a little more about it.
So it's good to start with 0-0. I come from an architectural design background. It's important to define your 0-0 before you draw a line. So last year, March, April, we were present only in Gurgaon and in Delhi NCR.
Right.
Today, our product is accessible from over 80 cities and towns. And beyond these 80 cities and towns, any city and town that you think of, we can activate it within 48 hours. We have very, very calibrated systems and thinking, which has gone into building that engine.
Sure.
So 12 months from now, we see ourselves having, in all these pockets, more higher end services.
Right.
So currently the basic membership is there. You can activate more value-added services. We see us having elders pretty much across all these pockets in the country.
Right.
With more presence in the western part, in southern part as well. As much as what we have in NCR Delhi. NCR Delhi has our responders as well, which really acts a lot of power onto the last mile action as well.
Right.
In other parts, we have support through partners and ambulances and our local team members who are in all these 20 cities and towns. We see these local presences going up significantly.
Right.
We've divided India into 400 pockets. Each pocket has a certain kilometer radius and responder time zones and so on. It comes from my little geospatial background 12 years back. And all that logistics and supply chain is something I see that happening in the next 12 months. But I also see ourselves doing a lot of digital pilots to take Imoha to other parts of the world, but in a digital context, not in a physical context. We are already catering to a lot of non-resident Indians, their sons and daughters for their parents in India. I am actually very intrigued with the reverse, where elders in the United States are getting benefited from our service in India. Right. And it's something that we see from 12 to 24. For the next 12 months, very focused in India, consolidating, growing, making sure that our membership pretty much goes 10 times more than what it is now. But as we progress, I see our digital footprint increasing a lot. I see our content footprint increasing a lot. And why not? We should certainly be trying in the 12 to 24 months, doing some more experimentations outside of India as well.
Very interesting. Samajit, this is usually my last question in the conversation, right? And I believe that every founder has a journey, right? Every founder has had to his thick and thins, right? There are no clear answers, right? You have to find your own way, navigate through the course, right? It's cliched, but I like to ask it, right? What's your advice to in these times, right? In these difficult times where the customer has become more mature. It requires you to build right kind of credibility, right kind of a rapport. What's your advice to many founders, right, that are out there, who are building for a large audience, with the given complexity that we have in the country, right? What will be that advice, right? Or a suggestion, right? What will that be?
Very, very clear three things, Ashu. First is, always spend time with customers every day. I spend time with customers every day. They have all the answers. My elders have all the answers. I'm just listening to them and doing what they're asking me to do. That's all I do for the day.
Right.
Second thing is to really focus on growth. Really think of all the various channels of growth Do not underinvest in, in growth in digital. You may not come back from a digital performance marketing background. It's not so impossible to get into it if you come from a sharp engineering background.
Right.
But you need to be persistent on, on growth and really making sure that growth happens.
Right.
And the third is to have a belief in yourself. I think there are enough and more people who will try and tell you that, it will not work. A lot of people have come back and told me that Eldercare will not work. And,
Right.
how can you do emergency, 911 level services? We've exceeded 911, protocols in
Right.
some ways in an Indian context. So belief in yourself is very important. Belief in your
Right.
product is very important. And if you do all three things simultaneously, if you keep listening to your customers, keep building the product, have a fantastic team and build on the team, I think that persistency and passion will pave its way.
Interesting. Swamiji, thank you so much for taking the time out. It was a fantastic conversation. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy we did this, right? I mean, this has been a topic which has been close to my heart. I've continued to believe that, this is something which requires deep focus, right? But a long-term commitment. And I think
Correct.
with what we've spoken of has resurrected that thought and belief, right? And this is a marathon, right? I mean, we are an emotional, we are a country which is high on emotions. We are a country which has
Absolutely.
its cultural aspects, right? They need to be tackled with certain depthness, right? With certain sharpness, certain sensitivity, right? And I think it's just heartening to hear what you've said, right? Because I think you're really sort of touching on many of those very important points, right? And I think more importantly, you're running this as a marathon. You're not running this as a
No.
sprint, right? 100-meter, which is not how this is going to get solved, right? Thank you so much for taking the time. It was a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Ashu. Please come explore Imoha for yourself, for your family members, for viewers out there.
I will.
You'll be pleasantly shocked and surprised of all the fun things that we keep doing and bringing joy to our elders' lives.
I am definitely bringing in this for 3 people in my family. That stands as a commitment because this is something, and a lot of things that you kind of highlighted, Samjit, is something that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis, right? Most importantly, depression as an aspect, right? Something
Yes.
that we kind of alluded to, but I think I'm going to reserve a lot of those points for our next conversation.
Please feel
But
free.
this is something which is this seems like an important support system.
It is.
My talking to you gives me a very different kind of a belief, right? Also, the fact that I tell to founders, right, is that it's important to go out and talk, right? Because when you talk, it just demonstrates the value system and your seriousness around delivery, right? Which is so much more important in today's environment, right? With that, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Ashu. Lovely chatting with you. All the best. Stay safe. Take care.